to Conversations with Leaders in Luxury. I'm Greg Furman, founder and chairman of the Luxury Marketing Council. Since 1994, 1,000 luxury brands in 43 cities worldwide, some 5,000 CEOs and CMOs. Appreciate the investment of your time and the luxury of your company today. I'm with Janice Winter, CEO of Janice Winter, Inc. Prior to the creation about 6 years ago of her own company, Janice was a longstanding member as the president of Judith Ripka, and a good business friend and a good friend. Janice, thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning.
To spend some time with you. Tell us a little bit about your background, Janice. Are you East Coast kid?
Yes, I am. First of all, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's really a pleasure. Yes, born and bred in Brooklyn, actually. Okay. Spent most of my years growing up there, and attended State University of New York at Stony Brook, and that's where I graduated from.
What did you do your degree in?
Oddly enough, nothing having to do with luxury, but I studied psychology and sociology, and was hell-bent on becoming a psychiatric social worker.
Well, we have that tradition in our family, too. I studied English and philosophy, but I think the liberal arts, if you will, or the liberal sciences, have a lot to do with luxury in terms of the psychology of a brand and the way people engage with products, which I'm sure you've benefited from.
For sure. I think in hindsight, looking back now, I see how valuable that really was.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be my career path, and I think it's kind of a testament to how we all think we have a straight line with our path, but we kind of zig and zag.
Yeah, you can say, especially.
For sure. But I think it was a good experience for me. I attended grad school at night at NYU and needed to support myself, so I thought, okay.
Business degree, or?
I was going for my MSW at that time. Okay. And so I decided I had to feed myself, and I needed a job. But when you come out of college with liberal arts degrees, oftentimes you don't really have the business.
Yeah, that is one of the, what would you say, challenges in the liberal arts for people in disciplines like the ones that we studied. I think that's beginning to change, but where the liberal arts are now bringing business to creative writing, when we were going through, give or take a few years, I think that was, you come out and what do I do with what I've learned?
Yeah, for sure. And so I said, listen, I need a job, and I went to an agency, and they said, well, we have a job for you. If you can pass the typing test, we'll send you up there.
Ad agency? Or
just at a recruiting agency.
Oh, okay.
And they said, what do you know how to do? I said, not much, but I've typed term papers, and I think I can do whatever you put in front of me. So they sent me up to a little company called Estee Lauder. And that was
in New York?
That was the beginning. Wow. Yeah, I got started there, and basically they had me at hello. Yeah. I mean, it was a complete turnaround for me.
When I was at Bergdorf, we did a lot of work with them. They've been members through several brands, and they're just a great great company.
It was an amazing place to get started in the career. If you have to have a kindergarten of marketing and sales. So proactive, so astute when it came to understanding brand and the focus on brand, and in particular the focus on customers. Because I started in the training department, which was...
Human resources?
Oh, training. We were responsible for training all the salespeople around the country. Okay. So I had to learn everything about the product, about the science, but most importantly about where the transaction took place. And that was the very beginning of my understanding of where it happens. And we used to say it happens in the last 3 feet. Whatever you do, that's where it comes to fruition. And so I kind of went through the ranks there. I started in the Lauder division and then moved into Aramis and worked in sales and sales development and marketing and research. And
so really classic packaged goods, fully integrated marketing, sales, service, training.
Yeah. And best practices, the importance of relationships, the importance of the consumer, being true to the brand, and all of that was just embedded from the very beginning.
Something you said reminded me of Ira Niemark, and when he lectured at NYU, I created the first graduate school course, credited graduate school course, which you spoke at on luxury marketing. And Ira was talking to the students, half of whom were undergrad, half of whom were graduate students, and he said, do anything and do it well, and it will assure your progression. And the other comment that I think you made that is even more important than ever is it all happens within that 3 feet. And many of the brands now are reversing the pyramid from the old military top down to the people on the line now are becoming the greatest source of intelligence on the market and market trends. And management is this best management of the best brands is starting to really embrace them as partners.
For sure. I mean, I think,
great experience too.
Yeah, it was, I didn't know any other way, basically. So that was, the best training ever.
How long were you there?
I was there for 12 years. I worked in corporate also alongside with Leonard Lauder and across the brands. Man is genius. And I think if anyone who's worked with him or alongside...
When Bert Tansky was chairman, he was the chairman of the committee. Bert was honored by the Boy Scouts of America, so I got to know him when he was raising money to honor Bert for his contribution, and the team was terrific.
Unbelievable family.
What was your last position there as you were moving into?
My last position was executive director in corporate administration, and so I worked with a lot of collaborative projects across the brands.
Nice rise in the relatively short period of time.
It was great.
I took a little hiatus after that, did a little philanthropic work. I was raising my girls, my 2 daughters. And then I met Judith, actually. Judith Ripka. I was a customer of hers and had known some friends who knew her. And she had been in business for maybe 20 years before we met and had leased apartments in fine shoe stores and clothing stores on Long Island and had just consolidated them and built her first store. And that's when I met her.
It's a force of nature.
Incredible talent. And we, hit it off sort of personally. And of course I was a customer and loved the jewelry and understood it. And she got to know a little bit about my background, which was really very different from, entrepreneurial companies. And she said, how would you like to help me grow my business? And I thought, this could be kind of interesting.
Where are we now in the calendar year?
1993.
Okay.
So it was really a very interesting time in the jewelry world. Because if you knew anything about jewelry, so you had your fantastic heritage brands, which were, Van Cleef, Cartier, Bulgari, and everybody sort of understood what those establishments were and what they stood for. And then there was jewelry that you could buy in a department store at a promotional price and, sort of the lower end. And there were independent jewelers where, they were in neighborhoods and they sold watches and maybe had a little designer jewelry.
And that was even pre the Couture Conference and Collection, wasn't it? By not too many years, but a little.
Yes.
Like 2 years, a year or two.
And the reason I mention it is because I was involved, as you know, with Departures as one of the speakers for those that preceded the big jewelry shows. And one of the things I learned by doing that and mixing it up with moderating some working sessions and things, that jewelry, for all the cachet of its brand, then, maybe now you'd know better than I, was not as savvy from a fully integrated packaged goods approach to marketing. And it was a lot of boutiques, and the big ones were, well, we've made it, therefore they will come kind of attitude. Right. So I'm mentioning that because I think what's interesting is you've seen the progression and entered the arena at a time when marketing was a new concept, relatively speaking. It was seen as mostly advertising, but fully integrated was what you were bringing to the party, I think.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because that was exactly my observation. When I started, I thought, wow, where am I? Because everything was so sophisticated in the cosmetic world and so much more advanced that when I came into this and I saw how unsophisticated it was a bit of a shock.
One of the threads, Accenture has their own family-run business consultancy, is that many of the like a Judith Ripka and others, are not big corporate. There is, yes, big corporate, like along the lines of the ones you've mentioned, but then the family-run is a whole different chemistry and dynamic.
For sure. I mean, and Lauder was a family-owned business then, even though it was...
But much more corporate, right,
so
in a good sense.
Yeah, so it had that combination of the corporate with the family. And when I started with Judith Ripka, I think that was one of the things that I really understood, that this wasn't going to be something where I could come in and just put on my corporate hat and say, I'm here, and we're going to fix all this. It was really coming into a culture and a family and entrepreneurial endeavor and saying, how are we going to get there?
Yeah, and with the added advantage of having been a good customer.
Absolutely. So, for me, it was really, I could feel the brand, I could see the future with it and the potential, and the idea that we were going to have our own jewelry store and sell just our own jewelry was very disruptive.
Very different.
And how was it? How was she selling at the time? Where was she when you entered, and kind of how did you? What were some of the challenges?
So when I entered, we had the one store on the North Shore of Long Island in Manhasset, and it was very much a destination store. And we began just building the business from the grassroots, getting into the community, understanding the customers and their needs. And I think aside from the fact that the jewelry was fantastic, there was really a position with the design. It was designed for women who had multiple roles in their lives. They were soccer moms, they were business women, they were going to charity events, and the jewelry really...
Which reflected your life, too, in many ways.
Absolutely.
Juggling family and professional career.
Yes, I raised my daughters along the way while I was raising this business.
Right.
And it was really, for us, just a real understanding of the product and how it resonated, how it was different. And we really believed that women needed to have this jewelry.
And what was the staff quotient then? It was you, Judith, and...
About 5 of us in a room around a small table.
Right.
It was an incredible journey. I mean, it was a process of not only building the brand, because nobody really knew, outside of Long Island, nobody really knew who Judith was, and most brands that were brands were well known. So here we were starting from scratch in a way. But this whole idea of building a designer and the concept around the jewelry and the need for it and its place was really important. But we understood that.
Well, and the way women, if you think of the way women are purchasing jewelry now, which is kind of old news, I mean, buying for themselves. I mean, then that was not so much of a concept, was it?
No,
it was jewelry was gifted to women, and I'm not saying all women bought that way or were purchased for that way, but more and more women are purchasing for themselves now.
Absolutely. I mean, at that time, I remember everyone saying, "Well, why does a woman feel comfortable going in and buying a $5,000 suit for herself or a handbag, but not jewelry?" It just had this giftable concept behind it, and really, we were...
Self-gifting, was not a big concept. Self-rewarding, maybe.
Well, even being so bold as to make your wish list and showing up, the husband would show up and we'd be like, here's a list. So it was really a very, very different concept, but we built it. We started as retailers, which was also very different from how a lot of other companies did it, and really got to know our market, became part of the community, understood our customers, and just really rolled up our sleeves and dug in there.
And when you left Judith Ripka, did you go immediately into your practice 6 years ago? Was that the transition, or did you do it?
I was with Judith for 14 years.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking. So if you were to do like one of those, haven't seen you in 14 years, and that as you were looking to the door and say, Manhasset, where was she? Manhasset. Then, with people sitting around a table, 14 years later, to say what it was at the point of fruition for you.
At the beginning?
At the end. What was it at the end?
Gosh.
It was an incredible journey. We had 14 retail stores that I feel like I hammered those nails in the walls myself. It was like birthing children.
As only retail can make you feel it.
Of course.
Of course. So it was 14 retail stores, 200 points plus of distribution, wholesale, and international business, a QVC business, and a very, internationally recognized brand. With over 100 employees, our corporate offices were here in New York, and just an incredible team. We had very little turnover. We built it from the beginning. It was a culture of a family. We were so passionate about what...
Spectacular story. Listening to you tell it to me now, I recall some of your lectures at my course at NYU grad school. It really is an astonishing story.
Yeah, it was.
If you had asked us at the beginning, do you think you're going to have a business that's going to be XYZ in value? We would have said, what are you, crazy? We'd be happy. Do you think we'll get to this number? We just kept going. And part of the journey when you don't have other people's money and you're doing it on your own, it's a family-owned business, you do have to be very innovative and creative. And so we were always, we didn't have multi-million dollars of budgets to spend on ads. We did advertise, but we really became what I like to call value engineers. We had to figure out how to do everything, make it look spectacular on a budget. And I think we were really successful at that.
So you talk about two nice journeys, the Estee Lauder and Judith Ripka. We had an event last night, and there was a very interesting guy who was the inventor of the concept in the early 80s of fractional share. And then, as a developer, he created the first private residence club in Telluride in the early 80s.
Wow.
And his wife was mad at him because he didn't register it as a brand, and now there are 300 of these. And so he really was the guy that invented fractional and then moved into development. And the reason I'm saying that is because moving toward your consultancy and your vision of your consultancy, as you kind of, for whatever reasons, decided to blast out, many of which I can intuit, you were dangerous in the sense that you had corporate, and you had value-add engineering and a tremendous growth record. So you had it all as you then faced your new life with Janice Winter Inc. So what prompted you to move in that direction? And how did you envision the business as you were looking to make that transition?
So I kind of call myself the accidental consultant in a way. So I wish I could say, you know, it was very planned out and I, you know, envisioned having this consultancy and going forward. I was actually presented with an opportunity to become a founding partner in redeveloping a beauty brand out on the West Coast. And I thought to myself, you know, things are great. It's just been an amazing 14 years. I think I still have another chapter in there somewhere. And it was an opportunity to take what I had done in beauty, in retail, in luxury, this coming together of all the things I had done in my career. And I said, you know, I felt like I jumped in the water without my swimmies. I'm like, I'm going in for this. And I just embraced it, you know, meeting new people, doing new things. And the phone started ringing and people started asking for help. And there I was. And it was an incredible experience for me. Daring, to say the least.
Yeah, always the high dive. Always, every time. That is. I mean, my family, I don't know about yours, but I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family. So, you know, taking that leap from something that was intrapreneurial to, okay, what now and what is it and what is the positioning? It's a big leap.
It is, but I found that there was so much value in, so if I had a jewelry client, knowing that world and being able to bring that over to a beauty client, or bringing the beauty over to an accessories client. I think today, you know, you need to be thinking out of your space, and you have to dig deep to get these creative ideas. And this enabled me to have a very big universe in which to draw, to bring.
And both classic corporate and growth and entrepreneurial. So when you talk about your business, how do you define your business? What's the burning platform? How do you present it to prospective clients? And maybe talk a little bit about some of your clients and what you're doing.
Yeah. So basically, I position myself in the luxury space. It's what I've done. It's what I love more than anything. And it's changed a lot. So I think it's really been a very interesting and way to be more creative in the last several years. So I position myself in the luxury space, and basically I help businesses scale. And there's a focus on brand building, how to scale the business responsibly, you know, how to navigate the new environment that we're in. But with a particular focus on consumer engagement, this is something that really, you know, beats very closely with me, because it's all about the customer and the customer's focus and point of view and their emotions and how they're changing today. So for me, it's very important to take what's happening with global trends and what's happening with consumer mindset and really connect that knowledge to the product, and then develop a strategy that's really in sync with what's happening around it. And then help my clients sort of define what is their DNA, how are they different, why do they matter? Like, there's so much clutter today. You know, why are you different? How are you different? Why should you be here? And really, once you hone in on that and you understand it, you begin to create the marketing around it.
Any of the great agencies, whatever language they use, it always all stems from the strategic positioning, the DNA. Once that's understood, all the tactics and strategies flow from that. and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, I'm certain, but your practice goes well beyond beauty and jewelry at this point.
Yeah, I've done a number of different things outside of that. I've worked with helping certain internet companies launch web businesses. I've worked in consulting behind the scenes with financial companies that are interested in acquiring other businesses.
So one of the threads there being a better understanding of the most sophisticated customer, which is your DNA.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I think it's that understanding that really gives you the advantage, gives you the leverage, if you can really connect the dots at a different level.
And some of the brands that you're working with or present clients?
Well, sometimes my clients don't like me to speak in particular, but I have worked with Temple St. Clair, which is very beautiful. And when you think about what is luxury today, one of the reasons I really enjoyed working with them is that they were so focused on craftsmanship and the beauty and the quality behind the product. And I think that's really what resonates today. So I like to work with companies that, that do understand that. And
so the theme always being repositioning zero-based strategy with an understanding of the top customer and innovative ways of value engineering the way in which to surprise and delight them.
Sure. One of the ways I differentiate myself in what I do is that, oftentimes people can come in, consultants can come in, and they can give you some strategy, and then they exit left. Because I've worn all the hats, I have the ability to come in and help execute, which is really very helpful. I mean, I've worked with clients that are in one stage of their business and ready to go to the next. Right. So how do they position their infrastructure? Right. How do they look at their financial model?
To go forward.
Yeah, that's an important point, that you can enter at any point in the growth of the corporation, given your corporate experience and taking Judith Ripka to what you've taken it to. So you have what I call 3D vision into what stage they're in, which is very powerful. Yeah. And also, I think being a boutique consultancy, as are we, the Luxury Marketing Council, you own them and they own you. There's no shifting of who has responsibility for the strategic discussions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really enjoy that. I become part of their team, part of their culture. And for the most part, stay on, for a period of time to see it really develop. I've also worked with young designers in the jewelry space in particular that are very, very talented, and they show up usually like a year and a half into it, and they're like, I have this product, and I haven't had any sales. So I help them get started and help them navigate the pitfalls so they don't make the expensive mistakes.
That's a great and I think very opportune market. I think you either know or know of Richard Lambertson, who built Truex while he was creative director at Bergdorf Goodman, reporting to Don Mello. And one of the things that I think he demonstrated is that for young talent, one no longer needs hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in advertising, that with the buzz and word of mouth and the web, with the right crafted product and a proper marketing strategy, a young brand can move up the food chain pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in recent years in several categories. And I tell people when we talk about it, it's not, it's sort of simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah. It's simple strategically to state, but the implementation needs management.
And I think today the luxury consumer has changed so much in the last 5 to 6 years.
What are some of the key ways, would you say?
We all talk about how it used to be how much could you accumulate, how bling bling it was, how expensive it was, so exclusive.
Not about stuff so much anymore.
Not so much about stuff. It's really, we talk about experience, but even more than experience, it's very personal. Luxury, if you ask anyone what is luxury, it's very personal, different to everybody, but certainly more about experience, more about being and who you are rather than what you have. We see, this movement towards artisanal, everyone's making their own food, their own chocolate, their own coffee. It's this sense of luxury being something that isn't necessarily excluding other people, but something that's very unique and rare.
How do you see the millennials entering the scene, the young folks from, say, 25 to 39, 40, in terms of buyers of luxury products?
They're the game changers, for sure. Because, certainly the boomers are
moving on to other things, and in certain cases, this is the kindergarten, these are the future. They shop differently, they think differently. I mean, they're very informed, right? So, everyone's a connoisseur. You can go on Google. We're all geniuses now, right? We'll all go to Google, show up in the store, we know everything.
Right.
So I think it's working with this new type of customer that's very informed.
Mm-hmm.
They demand that there be value. They demand that it be authentic, and they care about where it came from.
They're more socially responsible,
Absolutely.
I think.
Where did that gold come from? What's the story with the diamonds? What's the working conditions like in that factory that I bought my shoes from? So I think all of these things are very much at the forefront of the new consumer, and particularly in luxury, when people are spending more money, their expectation is high. And with the millennials, I think their patience is low.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be told. So back in the day, you did an ad, and you basically told everybody what they should have.
It's gone from push to pull.
Absolutely. Now it's a conversation.
Yep.
You need to respect them. You need to listen, and they're telling you on social media. This has changed the world. You have to be ready to hear what's coming on the other end.
It's a new world. Maybe in our part 2 discussion, we'll explore the impact of the changing media, viral web. But today, unfortunately, we don't have time for that. I would love to do a program with you around some of the issues that we talked about this year. So we'll work on that. What's your personal definition of luxury?
Oh gosh, I own a home in Charleston.
I was going to say, just going there must be, the blood pressure must drop.
I get out on that deck and I overlook the water and I look at the dock and I take out a book, and that's it for me.
That sounds really like good. I can relate
relax and chill, and certainly having my family around me makes it perfect.
Well, listen, it is always a treat to be with you. Thank you. We finally got to do this together. Wish you lots of success. I appreciate your support and membership in the council over all these years, and thank you.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure. I'm very much a fan of the council and glad to be participating.
I appreciate it. And thank you all for the luxury of your time and the investment of your company. Really looking forward to seeing you at our next Conversations with Leaders in Luxury, today with Janice Winter, CEO of Janice Winter, Inc.